Welcome everybody to another exciting episode, another edition of A Week in Geekdom here on YouTube. I am your host, Giovanni Menendez, and I am super ecstatic, happy, just plain, I cannot believe the emotion that's coming out of me because this is my very first collaboration video. And if you're new here, don't worry about it. I'll guide you through it. I am your host, Giovanni Menendez, like I said, and today I have a very special episode for you guys. Recently, I sold my Invincible collection. I have been talking about it for the past few months. I sold my compendiums to my good friend Brian, and as I was reading the first volume, I said, you know what, I want to review it. It is such a great, underrated comic book series that I think everybody should read. And fortunately enough, I am here with my first collaborator, the one and only Gabe Bustamante of Gabe Infinity Watch. How are you, sir? Welcome to A Week in Geekdom.
Thank you so much, Gio. I appreciate being here. This is such an honor and a privilege to hang out with my buddy with the famous Week in Geekdom here. I can't wait to talk about our discussion topic for today.
Gabe, how did you get into Invincible and this wonderful series that we, or both of us, actually really love?
The way I got into it, I love the story just because it's one of those things where there's nothing better than being introduced to something and it becoming a part of you and something that you love years and years later. It's like 10 years ago, I had an LCS and the guy behind the counter was a super pusher. He pushed me onto Invincible. It's one of those things where he said, you can borrow this book, the first trade paperback. If you like it, come back and buy it. If not, come back and just return it. And I was like, all right, well, if you're willing to take a chance with me, I'll take a chance on this book. Read through the first trade paperback, ate it up in a couple hours. Absolutely loved it. Went back. Not only did I buy that trade, I bought like the next two that was after it, and that was it. End of the story. I was stuck with Invincible forever. And then eventually, as the hardcovers started coming out, I upgraded to the hardcovers because, like you said, they're bigger, they're very beautifully done. I love the idea of hardcovers with the archival paper and the binding and all that kind of good stuff.
And if you're wondering, everybody, I am going to review, I should have said this at the beginning, but whatever. I am going to review every single book because the series is ending. I am so sad that it's ending. It's one of the greatest comic books ever, in my opinion. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it is ending. And I want to review it. So here's what we're going to do. Every month, I'm going to do a special collaboration video. I'm basically going to review 13 issues every month, all leading up to next year when I think we'll have the 12th and final Ultimate Collection hardcover. I think that's right, because Volume 11 is coming out very soon. I think next month or the following one. And yeah, so if we go one every month, I think we should cover everything by this time next year. This is going to be a spoiler-free episode, mostly. I will warn you, we're going to talk about spoilers, but for the most part, I want to get everybody accustomed to just what the hell is Invincible. If you're new here and you don't know about the series and you want to get into it, here's what you have to imagine. Just think of anime and manga and those type of storytelling devices, and with characters like Goku and Naruto and Ichigo from the shonen genre, where it's all big action with colorful panels and just great art. Imagine that with the sensibilities of Western comics, and that, is sort of what Invincible tries to be and actually succeeds, in my opinion. It is a very action-oriented book, but of course it delves into the superhero life and this slice of life genre, if you will. You have this teen growing up with his father's a superhero, and there's so many heroes in this alternate Earth, and you follow this main character throughout all his adventures until he's much older. From, I think he was like 16 or 17 or something when he first started. And that's sort of what you get. It's like anime meets comics in a beautiful, bloody way. Gabe, why don't you, since you're our guest star, why don't you start us off with your thoughts on Invincible Volume 1, which I have here as well.
No, I agree with everything you said. I'm not a big manga guy, but I do relate to what you were saying on how this book is very much like Dragon Ball Z and other high action adventure mangas. this first hardcover, first 13 issues, basically, like you said, it starts out with Mark, who's a young teenage boy who is invincible, who his dad is literally Superman of this world. He's the big, baddest, most impressive superhero there is. And eventually Mark grows up and gets superpowers. But what's great about this world is that this isn't like, oh, Invincible is the first superhero that came around. When he got his superpowers, he was sitting at the dinner table with his mom and dad and was just like, hey, I got superpowers. They're like, okay, cool. Pass me the potatoes kind of thing. It was completely nonchalant. It's completely just normal, everyday world type of stuff. But like you were saying, it turns into Dragon Ball Z. It starts out almost like maybe Kirkman was thinking of this as being like an all ages book, because it's very teenage, not angsty, but just kind of your teenage high school girlfriend, friend, school relationship, teachers don't like me kind of thing. And then later, the story literally does a 180 and it will flip you on your head. And it turns into Dragon Ball Z with some of the most bloody fight scenes that you're ever going to see, which throughout the entire series, the fight scenes get more and more intense. Like, you think, how can it get any bigger than this last fight scene? Well, wait, because the next issue, it's nothing but a fight scene. So, but this first issue, yeah, like I said, introduces you great to this world. There's other superheroes involved. You got like Guardians of the Globe. And everything like that. You get introduced to superheroes, you get introduced to the fun, the comedy, and the relationship of this world. It's all introduced. This is a very good primer, but a lot happens. And that's what's great about this book. A lot happens. It's simple art, very clean lines from Cory Walker to begin with. And then, like I said, it turns into Dragon Ball Z once Ryan Ottley, who's been the current artist since like issue 8, turns it into just a bloody mess. And it's amazing. It's an amazing book. I don't know what you think about it, but let me know. But that's my thoughts. It's cute, it's fun, and then it turns into, I don't want to spoil anything, but it turns into something completely different and catches you off guard and you get hooked.
I think what I like about Invincible is the fact that, like you said, it starts out very homey feeling. It's very, like, you could see this happening to every teenager out there. And then it just suddenly escalates into this battle royale massacre where it's just beautiful. And yeah, some people might say, oh, it's like too violent for its own good. It can't be like serious and not. It actually has some serious stuff in it and tackles some heavy subjects, but it knows where it originated from. It knows its comic book roots, and it isn't like, Kirkman's not afraid to just pull the rug under you, but at the same time entertain you with stuff you've seen before and the tropes and all that stuff. That's what I think I love most about the book.
I mean, throughout the whole series, they never really skate away. They never shy away from this being a book about family.
You get the chance to explore the whole story of a superhero, and naturally, since it's coming to an end, you get a conclusion, which is pretty rare nowadays.
And it's pretty rare to see a book reach over 130 issues straight without a reboot or a restart or new number ones or anything like that. But yeah, like you said, you grow with the book. You know, he gets older, you get older. His life changes, becomes more adult, as my life and your life will, change to and become more adult. It's always there. It's great.
So what do you think about the art of Invincible? Let's first talk about Cory Walker, which he was the starting artist with Robert Kirkman. What do you think about Walker's art?
Walker's art, it fit the tone that the book was in at the time. It was very clean, simple, nothing too fancy about it. It wasn't much detail. There was no cross-hatching, wasn't very much backgrounds. It's a lot of, kind of blank panels with just talking heads and stuff like that. That's what I like about it, about Cory Walker's art. He created all these characters. They all look different. He tells a story. It's fast-paced. It's moving along. It fits the sensibility of the story. You see the art and you know what you're going to get out of that story.
Yeah, definitely. When I first started reading Invincible, I wasn't a fan of Walker's art per se because it was a little bit too minimalistic, I guess.
Right,
But
right.
it grew on me, and I think it cemented the basis for what Oakley was going to do when he picks up the book in issue, I think it was issue 7 or 8. But yeah, it looks simple, and you get what the characters are. They're so clear that you don't have a problem identifying who's who. So I guess that's one of the big pluses, in my opinion, about Cory Walker. But unfortunately, I really prefer Ryan Oatley more than Walker. Ryan's one of my favorite comic book artists. I know he's not everyone's favorite, but to me, like, he's high up there on my top 10 list.
Yeah, no, me too. I own original art from this book. I own original Invincible pages.
Jealous.
I love Otley. I've met him a few times. I've had drinks with the guy, so I'm gonna sound a little biased, but he's great art in here. And really, his art is basically the only art I can think of when I think of Invincible, because he's been on it forever. Same, you know, like you said, Cory Walker was like the first 7 issues, and then the next 125 has been Ryan Otley. So Ryan Otley has grown with this book. And people don't know Ryan Otley because he hasn't done really anything else besides Invincible.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Crossed over and quote unquote sold out, went to Marvel or DC. He's 100% been dedicated and involved with Invincible forever. And now that the book's ending, I wonder what's coming up next for the guy.
So, Gabe, the first 13 issues, give me like a little bit rundown of what happens before shit hits the fan, which we're going to talk about in a few.
Basically, the rundown from 1 to 7, 1 to 8 is you get introduced to Mark, teenage kid. He loves comic books. He works at a fast food restaurant. He has a best friend named William. They go to high school. And you get that typical high school teenage kind of storyline going on there. His dad is Superman. So what happens pretty much is throughout the storyline, there are kids from his high school disappearing, showing up later like in malls, and they've been turned into living bombs and blowing up malls and killing people and stuff like that. So that's kind of his first adventure. You start to run into other students at his school who turn out to be superheroes, a team called Guarding the Globe or Guardians of the Globe. So you get introduced to all the characters. The Immortal, it's basically Justice League. They have Superman trope, they got a Batman trope, they got an Aquaman trope, they got that whole kind of idea, basic characteristics down packed. So you find out that the person who's been blowing up these kids, I'm not going to spoil that, but you kind of find out who happens with that, and Mark kind of becomes a superhero. He gets his superpowers. He gets introduced to one of his dad's friends who makes super suits for everybody, and
well, we do get to meet other teen heroes like Adam Eve and was it the Teen Team? What was the name of their first group?
Right, Teen Team. You get like Rexplode, Multicat. He was like a multiple man kind of trope character.
I think it was Duplicate.
Duplicate,
right?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we talked about Guarding the Globe and their superheroes. They're basically the Justice League. It's Darkwing, Red Rush, War Woman, Aquarus, and the Immortal, which you said earlier. And that was hilarious. One of my favorite panels is when all these Justice League type heroes get this phone call, if you will, for something that's about to happen. Everybody's rushing in to figure out what the hell's going on. They're going to home base, and then you see Aquarus, I think I'm saying the name right, and he's just sitting in his Atlantis throne. He's basically a big ass fish, and he's like, "Oh, finally, somebody's calling me."
Because he just sit there bored. Yeah, it's a poor Aquaman kind of rip on him.
Oh man!
And stuff.
The first 7 or 8 issues, basically, they just set up the world. It's a lot of world building, even though it is a pre-existing world. There are things are in motion. You don't, like Gabe said at the beginning, you don't get the first superhero. You get like the 1000th superhero or something like that. And yeah, you see characters like Omni-Man, which I want to discuss right now. and he is essentially the big savior of this world, the real Superman, if you will. I think they were gonna call him Supraman, but DC was like, no, you can't call him that. It sounds a little bit too much like Superman. So they went with Omni-Man. And Omni-Man, one of my favorite scenes in the whole first volume is when he's telling the story of his origin to his son. And then later on, there's this plot twist, and you realize that the story might not be what it is being told. I love that. I love the fact that, and especially going back to the whole Dragon Ball, it really reminded me of like Saiyan culture and all that stuff. I don't know what you think about Omni-Man.
Omni-Man was great. I love his character. He's dad. He is, like I said, he's Invincible's dad. He has a his secret identity is he's just a writer. He's a normal guy who's a novelist, but he writes novels fast enough or just enough that they're not super rich. They don't have needs. They don't want, but they're not super rich, super famous and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So he has a really good dad mentality for him. There's a cool scene here, as you were saying, where later, after he finds out Mark has superpowers, I don't know if you can see it on here.
Yeah.
But they're playing catch. But they're playing catch back to back, not face to face, because they're throwing the baseball around the world and back. So you can imagine how cool that would be to play catch with the dad, who you guys have super strength, where you could throw the baseball around the world. He catches it, he throws it back to you around the world, and you catch it. So there's a lot of cool stuff like that. The book's actually really funny too, especially when Mark first finds his powers, is that he's throwing away trash at his job, and the trash bag just flies through the air and just disappears into space. And they come back to that scene later in the series where it lands in like France, and they're like, "What's all this garbage doing here? It looks like American garbage."
Yeah, the book is very self-aware and knows how to play with its audience and have some fun.
Yeah, I mean, Omni-Man he's dad. He loves his son. He loves his wife. He's supportive, but he is the big savior. Like at the drop of a dime, he takes off and has to go battle like a dragon in Japan somewhere, or a water monster, or something like that. So it's kind of cool. Mark has Superman as a dad, and you get to kind of see how that relationship kind of builds up, and how that relationship, changes the tone of the book as well.
The book also introduces Adam Eve, one of my modern comic book crushes, because I love Adam Eve. Such a great character as well.
Yeah, she starts out as just kind of your everyday kind of teenage superhero female character, but later on there's some really big changes in her. Even in like the first volume, she is kind of just Rex Blode's girlfriend.
Yeah.
And that whole thing happens, they break up, and she becomes her own character. So there's a lot of good like character development. You see her change along the lines and everything like that as well.
Kirkman knows how to write. Like everybody has a voice, and it's not. They don't fall too much into their tropes. Everybody has a voice of their own, and female characters are just as powerful as the guys. So I appreciate that. It's pretty rare nowadays to see everybody on equal footing, in my opinion.
Right, and every character in here can be somebody's favorite character. It's not everybody's favorite character is going to be just Invincible. You're going to like Invincible, of course, but you're probably also going to like, Adam Eve or other characters that come along the line with like Alan or something like that too.
Alan the Alien.
By the way, cool character, Alien. Yeah, another cool character who is just a big pink alien who comes on to Earth to test their superheroes to make sure that they're strong enough. Fun ideas that just seem like Kirkman's just throwing ideas to see what sticks. His ideas later and expand into something much bigger.
For everybody that's watching, we're going to talk some spoilers now. We're going to move into the big stuff that we wanted to discuss and what makes this book such a badass. If you have not read Invincible, please stop. Go read it. Come back and watch this video with us and just geek out over this book with us. When issue 8 hits, when the Justice League, if you will, gets that phone call and they're all going in, they think it's Immortal that's calling them. And Immortal himself drops in and he's like, what is everybody doing? What's the emergency? And they're like, I don't know, you called us. And then out of freaking nowhere, spoilers, Omni-Man shows up and just basically kills everybody and supposedly murders Immortal too. And I was just like, holy shit, I did not expect that at all. That twist is just genius. You don't know what the hell's going on, but you're like, wow, amazing. I can't wait to turn the page and keep going.
Yeah, that turns, like we've been saying this whole time, that changes the entire story. Like I was saying, it's really cute and it's fun, and you kind of get, it's fun teenage ideas and storylines, and then boom, out of nowhere, there's just 3 pages where all you see is a Wonder Woman kind of character get her neck cracked, and you see like a Batman character get his head taken off, and Immortal gets his head taken off, and everybody just gets splattered. And you turn the page, and it's Omni-Man who did it, who just covered in blood, and we're just like, I never liked you guys to begin with. Sorry.
Oh wow! Yeah, just goosebumps right now. I want to read that again.
Yeah, and that's the one thing about this book. It goes on throughout the whole series, but Kirkman is just the king of cliffhangers in this storyline or in this series. Every issue ends on some kind of cliffhanger. It's not always big action cliffhanger. There's some emotional cliffhangers, but it always leaves you going, God damn it, when's the next issue coming out? I need to turn the page. I need to get the next book off my shelf. I need to continue reading. And that's something that we don't get much these days, I think, in other comics.
Yeah, totally. I agree 100%. And then you get like you get the funeral, and even the villains go in and pay their respects for this Guardians of the Globe team, and you know that Omni-Man is lying, but at the same time you're like, did he really do it? Like, you can't, like, you just read 7 issues of him being like this perfect dad with his glorious mustache, and now all of a sudden he's a stone cold killer, and you realize that, oh shit, like his story is completely different. And when Mark confronts Omni-Man about this,
Portal comes back and just lets everybody know, like, it was Omni-Man. He killed everybody, and that's it. That just takes care of, that changes the story. And then Mark confronts his dad, and his dad tells him the real story. Like you mentioned, he tells him the story about where he came from and how everything was a peaceful existence, and he came to Earth to be Earth's savior and to help us out and to help us evolve. Turn that around. He came to Earth as a part of a coalition to overtake our planet and make it a part of like a world of planets that his race of people own, and basically just slave out.
Yeah, basically it's the Voltramite Empire, and yeah, he's just setting up the stage for an invasion, and you kind of like, he wants to fulfill his mission because it's in his pride, it's in his DNA, but at the same time you kind of get that glimpse that he kind of doesn't really want to, because like he mentioned, he grew in love with his family.
When Mark and he meets up with his dad, Invincible and Omni-Man kind of fight it out on TV, it's soul crushing. It's one of the saddest, messed up things you're ever going to see in a comic.
Yeah, now the whole dynamic of the family is going to change, because before everything was so lovey-dovey. Now, the wife just realized that it's all a farce, because they tell her everything. She's heartbroken. She can't believe it. But there's video evidence, or there's audio tapes of the conversation that was going on. And we do get to meet a very essential comic book character at the end called, I think his name is Cecile, right?
Cecil. Yeah,
Cecil, yeah.
It was kind of like the Nick Fury of the universe.
Yeah, he's like this Nick Fury character. He's basically, Omni-Man was his right-hand man, if you will, his enforcer, doing good in the world and policing the world, if you will. So now the government knows. They know that they have to step up their game, because this guy's going to come back. He's probably going to invade. Everybody's going to get murdered or something. And now Mark, which was one of my favorite panels, because it's so heartbreaking, when he finally wakes up after this epic confrontation. I think he's been out like 2 weeks. And then Cecil, he's explaining everything, yada yada, and then he takes a look at Mark, and he's just dumbfounded. He's like not processing anything, and he's like, oh well, my bad, I'll tell you later when you get better.
Yeah,
That was really messed up.
yeah, you just got almost killed by your dad. But on top of that, now the world's gonna change. Now everybody knows that Omni-Man was an evil villain. And oh no, sorry, yeah, that's too much for you to handle right now. I'm gonna come back and tell you later, and I'm gonna go tell your mom what's going on too.
Yeah.
So you're all beat up and half destroyed, and your mom's a complete mess. And mom has a huge arc. Like, she is your basic housewife, lovey-dovey mom. This stuff happens, and she kind of turns into, she turns to the bottle for assistance to kind of take away the nerves and stuff like that.
I know it's a little exaggerated, but it's based on real life issues where you have parents that just can't get together, if you will, and they fall through the cracks, and addiction and all that stuff happens. So she takes comfort in the bottle, if you will.
Yeah, and that's the thing with this book. It handles a lot of grown-up issues like alcoholism, and there's more stuff like that later on in the series where there's some really crazy things that come along with family and kids and babies and stuff like that. But earlier you were saying how Omni-Man was so conflicted, and one of my favorite panels, one of my favorite pages of this book is after Omni-Man beats his son half to death and he flies away, but you see he's kind of crying about it. Like, he didn't want to do it, but he had to for the sake of his race and the sake of his mission. And later, that comes into play later on a lot bigger scale too. And I like where after the Guardians of the Globe are all murdered, the government has to come up with a new superhero team, and they have live auditions. So you get to be introduced to a lot more cool characters, like Monster Girl, and Robot becomes a bigger character, and stuff like that. So you kind of get to see that kind of conflict happen as well, and that's always really fun.
So yeah, I think that pretty much covers all the major points. We could keep talking forever about this book, and of course we will come back and discuss more volumes in the future. But yeah, just overall impressions, man, on that first hardcover.
I'm blown away by this book. This is probably one of the books that I love the most because of how much of addiction it caused me to have with it. It's great. It starts out slow, but that's all intentional because it's all world building. But this book exceeds all expectations. I'll have to give it that kind of grade.
I couldn't have said it better myself. It's just a fantastic series, and it's so bright and colorful. Even though shit's happening inside, you just want to continue reading it. And no matter where I am in life, I'd pick up one of these books and I just glued to it, and I want to keep reading and reading and reading. Whereas other books, I'm like, maybe I want to read a little bit and then come back to it next week. No, I had to stop myself from picking up the second volume and keeping up with the series again. But yeah, I'm really interested in rereading all of Invincible. As I said at the beginning of the video, volumes 1 through 10, with volume 11 coming out soon, and then volume 12 next year. We're in for a treat. I can't not wait to see how the character ends. So, Gabe, thank you, my friend. I'm going to cut this short. We've already gone on long enough on this Invincible discussion. Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
I think the only thing I want to add just real quick, because we didn't really talk over it, but what's cool about this book also is it's a shared image universe where you have Super Patriot and Savage Dragon and Shadowhawk, and all those characters are in it too. So it's kind of cool to see all that happen. But besides that, dude, thank you so much for having me on to talk about one of my favorite comic books with you.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure, really. Where can they find you on YouTube? Because you are an upcoming YouTuber, same as myself, and I got to help you out. We help each other out, and yeah, just tell everybody where they can find you.
Yep, I'm going to go ahead and plug my YouTube, which is Gabe Infinity Watch, where I do reviews of comics. I'll probably do a more in-depth review as well for Invincible on my channel. I do unboxings. I do some cartoon talk because I love old Nickelodeon, Fox Kids, Disney cartoons as well. So there's a lot of really cool geeky nerd stuff to check out on Gabe Infinity Watch.
So yeah, guys, that's what you got to do. You got to head on over to Gabe Infinity Watch, subscribe, hit the like button, and as always, you can follow me here on A Week in Geekdom. You can hit the notification bell so you know when new videos are coming. Like and subscribe, and comment down below. Tell me down below what you think of Invincible. Have you read it? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Let's start a conversation. Let me know. As always, you can follow me on your favorite social media platform, from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and many more. Just type A Week in Geekdom, and I'm there for you guys. All right, we have to go. Next month, I will have another collaborator talking about Invincible, and who knows, Gabe will be back for another video later on as well, where we will talk more Invincible. So yeah, guys, thank you once again. I will catch you on our next video.